Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Joining me today on the podcast is Ceil DiGuglielmo. She is the host of the So Much More podcast and the owner of the Curtains and Soft Furnishings Resource Library. And every year, Ceil and I do kind of like a business catch up at the end of the year, and we talk about what worked, what didn't work. We just ask each other leading questions just to kind of get a glimpse into work and life and balance and how all those things go together. Our hope is that as you listen, that maybe you ask yourself some questions. This year, we talked a lot about creating space and margin in our lives and checking in with ourselves instead of checking in with a book or a podcast or AI or something else, really learning to listen to ourselves think again. And so I invite you to do the same as you are looking at wrapping up your 2025. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hello, Ceil.
Hey, Michelle, how are you?
I am doing well. I am finally feeling more calm in my life and feeling good. So I am super excited. I was trying to think. So we started this in 18. So 18, 19, 20. I'm counting on my fingers 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. This is our 8th year of doing an end of year wrap up.
Wow.
Can you believe that? I
No,
don't
I
know that I
can't.
have a lot of things that I've done for 8 years. Like that's pretty cool to me.
Same. And as we were preparing for this, I was kind of looking through my calendar over the year and I knew some things that I had celebrated, but that makes perfect sense because I've been doing my podcast for 9 years
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And it is something I look forward to every year because some years we don't get to see or talk to each other quite as much. So it's a good chance for us to catch up. It also is a good chance for me to take a look at my calendar and say, okay, what went well so far this year? What happened this year that didn't go so well? And we've got those things to talk about. But yeah, I do. I really enjoy this every year.
I think one of the things that makes it so special for me, I mean, outside of getting to meet with a dear friend, like you said, some years we see each other a couple of different times. You live in Pennsylvania, and I'm down here in Georgia. So, our paths don't cross on the daily. But other years we don't get to see each other as much. But what I love about it is it's that same kind of thing you said. It is that point in time where we can stop and somebody else is actively asking me thought-provoking questions about my business that it is so easy for us to not ask ourselves or say, I want to think about it, but I'll get to it later. And I just kind of know that I have a date with Ceil every year towards the end of the year. And it's a good time of thought and reflection for my own business, but also to learn and to hear different things from you. And that what I would hope that our listening community takes away from our conversations every year, not so much the details of our lives or our businesses or that, but just that ability to have a person like your person that can ask you those questions that you have invited in to the context of the growth of your business, who can say, I want to celebrate with you. I want to mourn with you. I want to be happy with you. I want to be sad with you. I just want to sit here and acknowledge, right? I just want to share space with you and acknowledge the hard and the easy and the good and the bad and everything in the middle. And I think that's something we don't do as often. Like I read something the other day that has really stuck with me. It says competition happens at the bottom, collaboration happens at the top,
Oh, I like that.
right? Competition happens at the bottom. In other words, when you're at the bottom of your game, everybody's your competitor. When you're at the top of your game, you're going to collaborate. The other thing it makes me think of is kind of when Brene Brown talks about being in the arena, and that people who've already done or who are ahead of you are never going to throw stones at you for trying and for what you do. The ones that are throwing stones are the ones that are doing all the things. And I'm not suggesting that's happening this year. I'm just talking about in correlation, right? But yeah, but those are the one people that are, as the kids would say, coming at me or coming at you are usually the ones that would be at the competition level. And so I love that, you're a podcaster, I'm a podcaster. You help people do things and have coaching and mentorship programs, and I do coaching as well. Just we have some things that are very much in common, but at the same time, our businesses are so different that I never feel like I need to be guarded with you. I always feel like I can say it and we're either going to you're going to feel what I feel or you're going to push back or question me, and I just really appreciate that. I think we need more of that.
I do too. And I love the word collaborate because I feel like that is part of, I feel like this is part of my end of the year preparation where, because we're doing a little work ahead of time, okay, what did we talk about last year? What are we going to talk about this year? And we don't go into this with much of a plan because, both of us are pretty good on the ad lib end of things. But it's usually when we're done, it gives me some thoughts and some things to pursue for next year.
Yeah,
And
same.
yeah, and it's interesting because I often think that because of your coaching, there's so many good questions that you ask that have made me think, some that have taken me by surprise in past years. But I also feel like I've been doing this long enough now that sometimes when I'm listening to what you're telling me, that I have some good questions for you too. Like you said, I push you a little bit. So it is, but I agree. I don't think this has ever come across as just a gab session of what did Ceil and Michelle do this year, but an opportunity for people to hear some of our life events, some of our work events, and our highs and lows, and think, oh, okay, all right, well, what would I do if that happened to me? And
Yeah.
some of the things we're going to talk about.
It's the modeling of it, right?
Yeah,
It's the modeling. And I think people say that all the time. I'd like to see that modeled. Role play that. Show me what that looks like in action. And so I look at this as really doing a lot of those things all at once.
yeah. So what was the highlight of your year, Michelle?
Oh, the highlight of last year and the highlight of this year were both the same thing, grandbabies. Like, I'm sorry, they just were.
That's
So
okay.
actually, I'm not sorry. As they say, sorry, not sorry. I'm not sorry at all. So we had our first grandson in November of 2024.
Oh,
And
that's right, because we recorded before that baby was born.
yes, we did.
That's right. Okay.
And his name is Waylon, and he was the highlight of 24. He just came super late in the year, but so much a highlight. And then we had sweet baby Cooper that was born in April of this year. So we have two sons and two grandsons, and they are 5 months apart. And oh my gosh, we have a almost a walker. So Waylon is toddling behind everything. And the other day he had Cooper in this little wagon, and we got 1 year old Waylon pushing a 6 month old Cooper through the house in the wagon. A little pitter patter. I am laughing so hard. It was just the best. It was like I can't even tell. I mean, for anybody listening, you can probably see my face light up, but just to watch it and to see it and to watch my sons react and my daughters in love react, like it's just such a thing. I don't know. There is nothing. We bought a new house this year, and that actually even pales in comparison to having grandchildren, right? We've been in our home, we'd been in it for 27 years, so quite a long time. And my husband and I started talking about what we wanted kind of this next season of our life to look like with grandchildren and with, what did we want to offer to them in terms of environment. And part of it was land, and part of it was getting outside and doing things a little differently that maybe you don't do in the city of Atlanta. And so we kind of decided to move out of the city and move north a little bit. so that we could offer a tiny little slice of that to them. Not necessarily conducive with their day-to-day living. So that was the second highlight. But the first is those two grandbabies.
Yeah, and I can see that on your face. I love seeing
Yeah.
that.
Can't miss it. I mean, business is great, but grandchildren are really amazing. So how about you? What is your high?
Um, I think since my older daughter got married late in the year last year, I think watching her and her husband start their life together. And one of the things that we had talked about was that
Mhm.
your wedding is an important day, but it's not the most important day of your life. It's the start of a new life together.
That's right.
And my younger daughter had gotten engaged in 24. Yes. And that was before we recorded last year. But now watching her kind of mature, and we have a little joke going around. She sent a meme. My fiance, every time he makes a suggestion for our wedding, and it's somebody rolling their eyes, and she keeps saying that she's not doing that to him, but I've been in her company and she has done it a couple times. But it's watching the start of their relationships and how much they love each other and how much they care for each other, and just seeing how our family dynamic has changed a bit with these two great young men who are part of it. And for my husband, who grew up in a house full of sisters and then a house full of daughters, to have two young men who he really gets along well with and all of that. So that,
See,
and
that's the opposite for me. Right. I mean, I did grow up with a sister, but I've grown up or myself with two sons. Like, the last 30 years have been growing up with the boys. And then now to have two lovely daughters, I call them daughters in love. Like I love these two women. They truly are amazing women in and of themselves, but for my sons, and they care for my husband and I. Like they're just good people. Um, and that has been fun. Like they text me. We're in, even just the three women, we're in like a little text group and we're in a family text group. And I could say to both of them, hey, you want to go out for a girls' day? And they're like all about it. Like it's just nice.
that's we've been watching that change. And a couple of my brothers have retired, and I'm enjoying seeing them enjoy their lives. um, we've talked about this before. My mom died before she was 60, and my dad lived into his 80s, but he did it without my mom. And I'm watching my brothers, enjoy that time off, and their families, and it's given me some hope for the future too, as I
Yeah,
decide how much longer I want to work. So
I
um,
know.
the library has grown, and I've made some changes in it and some additions to it, and I'm really proud of that. And the community inside the library has really grown a lot too. There are a lot of free places to ask for advice and ask questions, and Facebook is sometimes a great place and sometimes it's not. And within the library, I just see this really beautiful supportive community and people watching out for one another and helping each other out and that sort of thing. So it's been I'm really proud of the growth that's been happening there, and just really happy to see that tradition just keeps going.
I'm curious, what has surprised you the most in 2025?
Hmm. Well, that would lead to the least favorite thing that happened in 2025. My husband very unexpectedly lost his job,
Okay.
and it was in April of this year. And he literally went to work on a Tuesday and came home without a job. And it was unexpected, although we there were some things happening that we were concerned about, but everyone in his position across the country lost their job on the same day. And we had dragged our feet a bit when we were younger about really putting a good plan in place. And I'm not quite sure what motivated me, but many years ago, we found a good financial advisor and really went to work on that. So when this happened, it could have been devastating, and it wasn't. We had some things in place that were well thought out. Our age was helpful because we were both over 65, so we could start Medicare and we could start pulling on Social Security. But it could have been a mess, and it wasn't. and we've been through worse in our lives.
Yeah.
And that was what we kept telling each other. And, but I also watched my husband lose his identity. And I know we've heard this over and over again, especially with men. He worked in the same job for 45 years. A different company purchased the business several times, and he kept, not only does he keep his job, but he got promoted and bonuses and did really well. And none of that mattered. And so I think the thing that surprised me the most about 2025 so far has been, and I hope this is the worst thing that happens in the year, but just that you need to have options. You need to have some plans in place in case awful things happen, but you can also overcome them.
Yeah.
And the way Bill handled these things and the decisions he made afterwards, and we always talked about him getting a part-time job when he was ready to retire, but he was going to work for at least another year and a half. And so we had to pivot very quickly. And I was surprised sometimes when he would say, "Oh, I applied for a job with blank." And I'd be like, "Why? Why would you want to do that?" Because he was feeling like things had been taken away from him and he had to hurry up and take care of this. And after a couple weeks, he took a breath and he went, "Yeah, I don't want to do that. And I'm not going to." And then he was a little more judicious about where he looked and what he decided to do. So
Mhm.
it's still a new normal for us. We're still kind of working it out. He is working a part-time job that could go full-time. But I've even said, and he likes it, but I've said to him, if you don't like it, you don't have to keep doing it. We
Yeah.
we're okay.
That's the beautiful thing about, I think, age and preparation. So, age without preparation, you don't get that option. Age with preparation gives you more options. Um, I think for me, that there are a couple things that just strike me as surprising this year. I've been surprised at kind of a shift in people's spending habits and value conversations. Like in the past, people would say they needed something and then be willing to pay for what they were getting. I've seen a lot less of that in 2025. I see a lot of people that want, the Mercedes, but they want to pay for a Honda. And just I don't know, it's just a very different value proposition. That has been very surprising to me this year. The other thing that has been surprising to me, we had a couple of different things happen. I had kind of made a plan that in my life, I wanted to build in margin. I wanted to build in some slower paces so that it wasn't run, 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 run. Because over the last few years, I was either building a coaching practice or building Matrique or building some, there was always a build. And I was kind of like, I don't want to build this year. Not that I don't want to build on a micro, like, let's find a better way to deliver this or find a better way to offer that, or let's narrow down the conversation. Certainly, we were building and strategizing. I didn't want to build something huge. And so, in my mind, that would give me a bit more personal margin this year. Well, I'm surprised how much I'm surprised how my life took over the personal margin. And I say that because, like, for example, in July, I took the month off. I had been working for like 3 or 4 years to try to take off an entire month at a time. We've talked about it, and I told you I was going to do it. So I took off the whole month of July this year. And that meant that still had podcasts go out, still had coaching that happened, still had things that were going on. But I had to work in advance to prepare all of those things, not only for July, but also for August, because normally we do August and July. So then everything that I needed to do to step away had to be for 2 months, or I was kind of behind the minute I came in. So I was thankful that I was able to do that, but I was surprised at how fast my time was taken up to the point that I don't know that I want to take a month off again. I almost felt like, I don't want to say the wrong things, but it's almost like I would have rather spread out the time in 2 weeks. chunks instead of all 4 weeks at once, just because of the way things felt. But I will say that some surprises that came out of that is, had I not had that time, I wouldn't have been able to do the things I wanted to do. So, for example, we went to South Carolina and we did some work in the home for my mom and dad and my husband's mom and dad. Painted rooms, new ceiling fans, all types of things that they just are either unable to do or that are difficult, or they just don't need to be up on ladders and doing those things, and they're easier for us. And we really wanted to bless them in that way. And so I wouldn't trade that for anything. But then I came home and we decided, oh, why don't we start looking at houses? Well, I underestimated the fact that, I had planned to go to their houses and work. I had planned to take the month off. I had planned to have a week of vacation with my husband. I had planned to let my brain rest and think. I did not plan to then have this wild idea with my husband of, why don't we go look at a couple of houses, that turned into, a 45-minute drive to see the house, a 30-minute drive, and then go to see the next house, and then all of a sudden something would come on the market and you run because there's not many things showing up on the market. And so it all of that stuff that ends up great outcomes for everything. I just didn't understand that my life took up so much of the margin that I was thinking I was going to do nothing. And I ended up getting great things out of it. But I think it made me stop and think about how often we underestimate our billing, how often we underestimate our timing, how often we underestimate because we think that things are just going to go better, faster, easier, and our lives are not plug and play. And it's like I mentally knew that, but in the living out, it was like, where did all my time go? And I realized all my time went to all the yeses that I said.
Yeah.
None of it was from a no. It was all from my yeses.
And I think, Michelle, you said before we started recording, you had 27 years worth of things in this home.
Oh, yeah.
And um, Bill and I have started talking about, we want to stay here, but we do not want to leave things for our children to take care of or the other person. And we've watched a couple people we know peripherally go through this recently. And we also talked about the fact that in another week, my husband's going to have shoulder replacement surgery. So he will not be climbing in the attic and handing down boxes anytime soon. But there are things up there that I can get rid of a little bit at a time,
Oh, yeah.
because it would be, if we had to move, it would be overwhelming right now.
Well, that is the bonus of moving. And right, whether we move our office or whether we move our whole home, it's the ability to clean out and not carry junk with us. And it's a good reminder though, Ceil, like even in business, how much mental junk are we pulling from year to year to year to year that we need to clean out? I even cleaned out some things that I had that were in paper form that I could have scanned and made electronic, so that I didn't have to walk around with 15 notebooks on a shelf. Things have changed over the years. My entire drapery workroom that I had never gotten rid of, that I started back in 2000. And I cleaned it out when I shut it down 12 years ago. But now we went back and cleaned it out again. Well, I have a drapery workroom in my new home and I'm going to set it back up, but I'm setting it up now as a drapery and craft room. And so my hope is to put like a little table in there and to invite the grandkids in there to explore and to play. And I've got paints and crayons and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to have my big drapery table. I'm going to have my sewing machines, but I'm also going to have a corner for that art and exploration. And so I had to clean out to be able to do that.
And in the past couple years since I purchased the library, I have done less and less fabrication. And there's one designer who's local to me who I just love working with, and she has small-ish projects, and I continue to do them for her. And she had reached out to me about doing some pillows, and I've been doing some sewing for myself. I've been making some things just to sew. And I was down in the room and I was like, I'm not really set up properly anymore. I've moved a few things around. So next week I have to get into my workroom and clean all that up. But you're right. There's physical things can weigh on us, and so can the emotional baggage of things.
Yeah.
I did go through all of my old client files and scanned any important documents that, whether it's for taxes, but I was looking at one, I was like, I bought this fabric 15 years ago. I can't buy it again. I like knowing where I bought it or who I bought it from is not going to be helpful in any way, shape, or form. I can release these things. And I think I emptied 3 of the short filing cabinets and scanned everything into Evernote and just shredded all those papers and
Yeah.
got rid
Just
of
let
them.
it
So
go. I think there's something to be said about doing a cleaning out, whether it's in our offerings. So every year, if we pull it back to business for a second, like in a more electronic way, kind of like the way you're putting it in Evernote, I ask the question every year. Courtney, who's on my team, helps me since she's been with me, and I did it before when I worked with Kelsey and with other people. But what is it that I love doing? What is it that I don't love doing? Where do I still find joy in the work? Where am I no longer finding joy in the work? So that I know what needs to shift, not just for my client, but for me. Because here's the deal, as service providers, which we all are, right? Whether we're doing design work, drapery work, coaching, podcasting, we're offering product and service to people or some version, but it's all service based at the end of the day. We're providing a service. I have to love what I'm doing as much as the offer that I'm making to somebody. And so it's not just about those people that I coach getting what I have to offer. It's about me finding the joy in offering it. Because if I don't, then it feels almost like I'm not dialed in. And I want to feel dialed in. I want to feel like I am giving from an overflow, that I am giving from an excitement and a joy for them to capture the information and to grow and to change and to morph. Not like I'm here and here's somebody else wanting the spreadsheet. Let me give you another spreadsheet. Like that just feels formulaic and it feels very disembodied, right? It's just separate from me. Here you go. And I don't want to work that way. And I am of the age that I don't have to work that way. I get to. You and I had that conversation one year at our year-end wrap up. I get to, not I have to. I get to serve with joy. I get to serve with love. I get to choose who I work with as much as they get to choose if they work with me. And and I get to show up with excitement for their business and excitement for the challenges that they have and excitement for the answers that could potentially come out of our conversation together, that mastermind of more than two minds working together. And I want to keep that alive because that's what keeps me wanting to come back to what I'm doing year after year after year without exhaustion and without it feeling tedious or like, here we go in 26. What is that? What did they say at the end of a song? Next verse, same as the first. And like, I don't want to do that.
no, and it's interesting that you said that because there are times when I see somebody looking for something on a Facebook group and I'm like, "Oh, wait, there's a step by step for that in the library. Let me let them know that." And I look at the name and I go, "Oh, good, they're a member. I can just send them right there. They have an answer." And there is a certain joy to that. And I finished a podcast recently with someone, and they were asking me about, like, do you have retirement plans? What are you thinking? And I said, I'm not sure. Yes, I want to sell the library in a couple years. I'm still really happy with everything that I'm doing. But the podcast itself is one of those things that brings me a lot of joy because just like your face was lighting up when you were talking about having grandbabies, and just like your face was lighting up when you're talking about how you get to service the people that you work with, I get to see that in the people that I interview for the podcast. Along with, I get to hear about what some of their challenges have been and the realization that they have that they overcame those challenges, or it's something they're in the process of overcoming. And I love that I get to connect with people that way.
Hmm.
And I can't imagine a time when I don't do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe once I have grandchildren, I'll feel differently. And if the opportunity for me to spend less time at work and more time doing that, maybe some of those things won't bring me as much joy, but right now they really do.
Yeah.
And when Bill and I talked about this change for him, we knew we weren't ready for both of us to stop working. But it was also, I mean, every year with our financial advisor, she'd say, "Well, Ceil, when do you want to retire?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to because I really love everything I'm doing. I don't know what I would do with myself." But I have started to think, like, what does bring me joy that's not work related? Because it can't be all about work. And I'm, especially with Bill working different hours and coming home at different times, he won't listen to this, so I can share this. The first, his job right now is very flexible, and I don't always know when he's coming home. And the first couple weeks he was at the job, all of a sudden, my office is right next to our garage. I'd hear the garage door going up and going, "Oh, he's home already," and I wasn't prepared for that. But it also made me slow down a little bit. And I'd look and I go, "Oh, it's 3 o'clock. We can have a cup of coffee together. He can tell me about his day." And it just, because his job is now no longer a high pressure job, it's a much different conversation. And we've both slowed down a little bit. And there is a piece of that that I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Oh,
this is what
okay.
retirement, wow.
Okay.
This is
All right.
it."
So I think I shared this on the podcast last year. I didn't have a chance to go back and listen to it, but I think I mentioned to you last year that I had asked Joel what did retirement mean to him because he was looking at what was he going to do. He retired from corporate last year, started his own company this year, and last year, our question was, what does retirement mean? Every study we have seen says the people that continue working or stay active are the ones that stay sharp-minded. They're the one. It's those that you see them that either work in an extremely stressful situation and the day they retire, they die the next day or the next week or something. Or you see those that retire way early. They don't have anything to do and that whole life takes on meaning, like even where Bill kind of had to redefine what life looks like for him. And so that was part of our conversation is what does retirement mean? What does it look like for us? And what we decided was we were retiring from a fast paced, do it because you have to attitude. We're not necessarily retiring from serving and helping and pouring into other people. And he and I both were like, we still want to do those things. That's what we want to do. And so I'm going to continue coaching and podcasting. I just made the older I get, it just might not be at a 110 mile an hour pace. It may be that I take a smaller amount of clients and I work with them on a deeper level and that's what I do. It might mean that my podcast went from 4 a month to 2 a month. That made more sense to me. It fit in with the ease that I was trying to create. And so that's also what made us buy this house was because we were talking about what did we want our lifestyle to look like and our life to be like and where we were living. I am telling you, I love that house. We had just remodeled the whole darn thing practically. Yes, we had put a whole lot of money into remodeling that home. And every day I woke up and walked into that kitchen and just smiled. It was so blasted beautiful. But, and two things can be true at once, right? We loved all of that, but the city was growing up on top of us. So much so that where we currently live, it takes me about 8 minutes to get to the grocery store, and it's about 6 miles away. Well, where we lived before, the grocery store was a mile and a half, and it could take me 10 minutes to get there because of traffic. And so we decided that we wanted a slower physical pace in life, but we still wanted to work. And so I suggest that as just a way of thinking. For some reason, I think in the world in general, I'm looking at my kids, I'm looking at the people that I coach. We somehow have, and you've heard it, like busyness and all of that activity is what we're celebrating. But when you go look at other countries, they have a 30 to 35 hour work week. Like they are really trying to be intentional about getting their work done and then going to be with their families and doing other things that they love. But there is no way to work 40 and 50 and 60 hours a week and then be able to do anything else that is extracurricular. And I
Or
think,
be healthy.
yeah, just the beautiful part of living is you made a comment about and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you made a comment about watching your brothers now starting to enjoy their lives. And I'm of the opinion we can enjoy our life while we work. It just might mean that work doesn't take, we're not one dimensional. And that's been my thing with that Joel and I've talked about. I don't want to be one dimensional or two dimensional. One dimensional, I only work. Two dimensional, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and we sit and watch Netflix. There's got to be a bit more in there than that. And so, what does that kind of 360 view look like of enjoying our life in this season? And how is work a part of that?
And it's interesting, Michelle, because no, I know exactly what you're saying because my parents instilled in us a very strong work ethic.
Yep,
And
same.
I've watched how hard my brothers have worked. And my one brother is semi-retired, and he's actually done a really brilliant job. He searches for real estate for a company. And what he does now is he plans a trip to go look at properties. And his wife, who just retired last year, and this is a second marriage for both of them, she retired and she joins him on the business trip. And they have a beautiful camper that they take to a lot of places. Sometimes they just pay for her airfare. His is covered by work, and they add on to the trip. And they have gotten to see places they never would have gone to, and they've taken the time to go camping. And this, she was a teacher. This was her first year of not teaching, so they planned a trip to Greece in September when she would have been going
That's
back to
right.
work.
That's
Yeah,
right. And that's been a sweet time with Joel and I, the same kind of thing. When I go places, I'm like, you want to go? Come on, let's go. I mean, we don't have kids at home. The most we need is somebody to watch the dog, but it's a dog. I love my dog, but it's a dog. Come on, do you want to go with? And I think that is sweet. It's being able to enjoy life and business together. And not that saying that when we work, we're not focused and we're not heads down and pounding it, but man, we just cannot stay. Like I always say, we can't stay on that Peloton all the time. At some point, we've got to take, and I say that for even younger people that are listening, stop and go to the muffins with mom. Stop and go to the I don't know, the celebration that your friend's having for her lunch. Like try to build those things in as much as you can because time goes so fast. Life goes so fast. And I get that we can't do everything when we own our businesses. It is so hard to have I'm going to just say outside relationships. It is hard. Like I struggle to even have conversations with people that I love very much and care about. Like I feel horrible when my parents call me and I'm in the middle of a coaching session and I can't answer them. And the only time I have is 15 minutes of lunch, but I haven't gone to the bathroom and gotten a bite to eat. And so I'm over here prioritizing, I really need to go pee and get something to eat before I have to do it again. But it's trying to find time to balance it. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to say in this next run of my life, whether I work another 10, 15, 20 years, whatever that might be. I doubt it'll be 20 at this rate, doing what I do, but at least a good 10, I would assume. Um, but I want to create more margin, even more margin to be able to be well-rounded.
the one of my goals for this year, Michelle, was to work on some of my relationships. I'm very close to my sisters, but we're all in a very weird time of our lives because even though three of the four of us have children, all like out of the house or in college or whatever, and we're all busier than we were when the kids were younger. And my sister Maggie lives not too far from me, but she also has a house at the beach and she works 3 to 4 days a week down there. And so we talk to each other, we text each other, we send memes to each other through Instagram, but the connection has not been there the way it was. And we talked about it and we were all feeling it. And my sister Bernadette is the office manager for her husband's dental practice, and he's my dentist. And we realized last year I saw her those 2 times that I went to the dentist and just a handful of other times, and that's not okay. So I really worked on that this year. And like you said, that intentionality of
Yeah.
not saying, all right, well, I'm working, I can't do this, but looking at, all right, can I stop an hour early and then reach out to that person that I haven't talked to in a while? I also think that, and I'm a few years older than you are, that idea of the time being short is, none of us ever know. You and I have covered this many times on the podcast. We never know how much longer we have. But at 65, pretty sure I don't have as much time as I had 20 years ago. And I was listening to something the other day, and it was about aging. And it was a quote from Michelle Obama. As her mother was dying, she asked her mother a question, and her mother looked at her and said, "Wow, that was really fast." And she wasn't sure what she was referring to. And she said, "Life. That was really fast." And there are times when I look at my age and I say, well, if I live as long as my dad, I've still got, 20 more years. Well, the last 20 years have gone by pretty quickly. So
I'll
what
tell
have I
you,
not done?
pack up a house for 27 years and we realized that when we moved into this house a couple weeks ago that our grandson was the same age his daddy was when we moved into that house. Like three, like this, almost the exact same age within, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, the same age. So we moved into that house 3 weeks before my son turned one, and our grandson will be one coming up here next week. And we've been in this house 2 weeks, so almost to the day. And I'm sitting down thinking back over that house and just kind of saying some prayers of thankfulness to the Lord for allowing us to live in that house and to raise our kids in that house, for the community. It was just such a blessing to live there. But my brain started scrolling through the birthday parties and the little sick chickenpox kids and all the different things that happened in that house. And I'm standing there going, on this side of 27 years, where did that go? Like, where did all that time go? And the boys made the comment, well, Mom, y'all can do another 27 at this house. And I'm sitting here on this side of 27 now looking forward. And it feels like so long. But when I look back, it's like the blink that, like, wait, what? I'm still 25. I don't know how all that happened. Like, how are they that age? You know what? But I think the same is, and well, I don't think I know. The same holds true in business. When I sit down and think about the fact of how long I've been in business and how long I've done things and what has happened, and like even thinking back towards the initial parts of COVID, we're 5 years out from
That
that.
number astounds me, Michelle. I did something the other day where I went, oh, that was 5 years
That was
ago. And
five
it
years ago.
really hit me. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so I say that too because one of the things that I have chosen to focus on super heavily in my business over the last couple of years, because I noticed it missing, was strategy, forward strategy, that intentionality that we talked about. And so every time I would do like a CFO to go program where I was helping people, like, here, I'll help you get it set up and then you can go. Like, I'm not tying you to me. Let me show you, let me teach you, let me help you do a deep dive into your numbers. But the numbers, what I was finding still over and over and over, the numbers meant they were in isolation. It was like, this is what it looks like this year. These are the choices you made. This is what it looks like this year. But they're asking me, like, well, what does it look like in the future? And, the crystal ball gets pulled out along with the strategy. So tell me where you're trying to go. Tell me, it's the same as the financial plan that you and Bill had to have to be able to retire, right? Tell me where you want to go. Tell me when you want to retire. Tell me where you want to hire. Tell me what you're trying to build into. Then let's look and see if we have enough money to do that. But I can tell you how much money you have. I can tell you what the money looks like. But without a strategy, there's no way to intentionally go where you want to go. They only mean something based on past activity. And so I have done a lot this year. I started it last year and have done a lot, like, I mean, a lot on building that strategic plan. I've always talked about it and I've always asked people to do it and tried to give them the pieces and parts. But it actually has led me to start a new offer called Strategy to Go, like CFO to Go. you know what? Don't stick with me forever. That's okay. But by gosh, come over here and let me show you how to create a strategy and then how to link the financials to it so that you can go do what you want to do because it is such a missing piece. People do they go to the marketing people and they say, "Hey, I need to get more people to come work with me." And so the marketing strategist, if they have a strategist versus a I can post for you. The marketing person says, will ask them if they're good, they're going to ask them questions. What are you trying to attain? What are you trying to do? What are the products you offer? What are your, market differentiators? They're going to ask them all these questions. But again, those answers are in isolation because the people that you're targeting today might not be the people that you're targeting in 3 to 5 years. So it may be I'm targeting this in 5 years, but today this is what I'm doing. So I'm going to be tweaking every 6 months my ideal client to get to that. Like there's a whole conversation. It's Michelle, I need to hire. Okay, but before we just go hire, why don't we look at how you're going to pay out benefits? Why don't we look at what is the company organization that you're trying to get to over the next 1, 2, 3 years to see where this position fits into that to make sure it's the next right position and it's not a reorg that we need to do. In other words, I find people most likely from a lack of education around this topic trying to make the best decision in the moment. And you've done it. I've done it. Where it could be with anything. It could be at the grocery store. I'm making the best decision in the moment. And then I get home and think, well, if I'd have known that we were having guests, I would have done something very different when I went to the store. Like I'm texting my mom and my sister who are supposed to all come in for the first birthday party. And I'm asking, what day are you coming in? What time are you coming in? What meals are you eating with me? When are you leaving? Asking so I know which meals to prepare. Because I want to have a preparation plan before I go to the grocery store and before I plan the meals. And I know what's served at the party. So I don't want to serve, they're having barbecue. So I don't want to serve barbecue for the meal before we go or the meal. Like I'm thinking and planning. But think about that. If I had not asked any questions and then I was like, huh, didn't know you were coming, don't have your bedroom ready, we wouldn't do that. But we do it in our business where we don't have a plan of where we're going and what we're trying to attain. We don't have a strategy. And so then everything that we're doing is the best with the information we have, but we've not kind of called out what doesn't matter and pulled all the information. And so I think it's the same thing I did in our packing up to move over here. What has to be done first? What has to be done second? Where do we have to just very strategically thinking on how do I get out of this house and get into this house within this amount of time with the least amount of effort, right? How do I do this? And I think it's a way of thinking about our businesses that I've seen missing from the marketplace. I've seen very transactional. It's almost like when you don't feel good and you go to the eye doctor for your eye, you go to the ear doctors for your ear, you go to the shoulder doctor for your shoulder, you go to the knee doctor for your knee, but nobody's looking at the whole body. And so I've just found that that is that piece of holistic, let me look at help you look at the whole body. Now let's go talk to your marketing person. Now go talk to the marketing coach because you're going to take them this and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can help you do that because now I've got a clear picture. Now, now let's look at it in conjunction. And so I don't know. I think over the last year, kind of creating that margin of space has also made me think more intentionally and strategically about everything that I'm doing, and especially about the holes that I'm seeing for people coming to me. And I would say, please, can you share your strategic plan with me? We don't have one. Can you please share where you're going or what you want? I don't have one. And it's exactly what you said. I am thinking now about when I might want to retire so that I can plan because the gap is the difference, right, between where you are and where you want to be. And so you might need to back that up because let's say you're going to retire in 28. Well, what do I need to have ready in 27? Where do I need to be in 26? What are the things that I need to put in play? Who do I need to talk to? What relationships or back to collaborations do I need to have? Like what needs to get in place because it takes time in advance to be ready. Back, same kind of thing with Bill and his job. We had to pivot. We were expecting another year and a half. We don't have it. So you had to have been ready, which thankfully you were pretty ready from the years before. But it's that same way of thinking and making sure that we're doing it daily. Like you can see, I get excited about it because there's so much power in that. And that's where my business shifted this year was really helping people see I can't connect your financials to nothing. If I want to give you deep financial understanding, we have to connect it to decisions already made and decisions that are coming. Now we can look at financials and look back and see what created them and look forward and see where they need to go.
And what needs to be done. And I think to your point, Michelle, just having someone to ask questions once in a while. There are times, I'm so fortunate that I have people in our industry. Yes, there are a few people I pay to do a few things, but I don't have a team. So when I get the opportunity to talk to you, to Janelle Deck, to Susan Woodcock, and one of you might ask me a question like, well, do you have to keep doing that? And it'll be in the back of my brain like, oh, it never occurred to me that I didn't have to keep doing that. What would that look like?
Yeah.
And maybe I do want to keep doing whatever that is.
But you get to check in with yourself to ask the question.
And sometimes when you're in that grind and you're just going and going, you don't stop to ask the questions.
Yes.
And when you have friends who care about you and your success and they say, well, does it make sense to continue doing that particular part? You're like, huh.
Like I didn't even know I had an option to do that. I was listening to a podcast this morning on a drive, um, driving back to where we used to live. It's about 30 minutes. And so I was driving back and um I don't remember even the name of the podcast, but I know what it was. It was on a little bit culty because I love to listen about cults, find it interesting. But it was a woman talking about being a people pleaser, and one of the things that she talked about, she was talking about fawning and being a people pleaser. And anyway, one of the comments that she made was about giving ourselves space to check in with ourselves, and it reminds me of what you just said because she said giving yourself space doesn't mean that you're going to react differently, but it means that you stop in the moment and give a breath to say, Michelle, how do you feel about that? What's happening in your body? Like, do you feel stressed? Do you feel excited? Are you okay with this? Like, instead of just doing because we've always done, like being in a pattern of behavior, whether it is a physical or emotional pattern of behavior or a pattern of work, because we've always been in that pattern of work. It's breaking the pattern or stopping or slowing the pattern enough to ask that type of question. Do you have to do that? Do you have to do that way? Do you have to do that at that time? Like, even that is three different questions. Do you have to do it? Do you have to do it the same way? Do you have to do it at a certain time? Are you the one that has to do it? Like, you could just rattle through a whole list of questions. And that's the strategic part of the asking and allowing space to do it. And, so often we might offer that to others, but we don't always do it for ourselves. So I just thought when I was listening on the cult thing, I was like, huh, maybe we should stop and have a few more check-ins with ourselves. Do I have to say yes to that? Do I get to say yes to that? Do I want to say yes to that?
You and I have talked about the fact that we process things differently, and you tend to be able to process things quickly and work through them. And I always said that about myself, but it wasn't until a couple months ago someone was saying something to me, and the words just didn't. I heard them; they didn't make sense to me. And a few seconds later, I realized what she had said to me, and I was responding. And she said, I wasn't sure if you heard me. I said, I needed to process it. And she just kind of looked at me because we've known each other a long time. And in that moment, I had this very strong memory of something that happened when I was a kid. My father told me to do something, and I heard the words, but I didn't get it. And I sat there for a few minutes looking at him. And I grew up in a family with a whole lot of kids. So when you were told to do something, you did it. And I think my mother said, what are you doing? Your father just asked you to do something. And I was trying to explain it to him. I didn't have the words because I was too young. And I realized, I think I said something like, I looked at dad's face and I realized what he said to me. That was not accurate. but the words were processing, and I
Right.
could see how impatient he was getting. I'm like, "Oh, he wants me to do something. Oh, 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 I get it now." And so knowing that about myself, I've tried to give myself a little more space. And when someone is asking something of me, is taking that time to go, "That's not really something I want to do. Okay, why don't I want to do it? Okay, can I do part of it?" Like, just asking myself a couple
Yeah.
questions. But I really had to reach my 60s before I gave myself that opportunity and that, "Oh, okay, all right." And that same thing, like we said earlier, do you need to keep doing that? I don't know. Let me think about that. And being a people pleaser can very much take away that thought that you have the right to think
Yeah.
about it
Yeah.
and decide how you feel.
That's right. And I think that is part of this, it's funny that the podcast that we're having is really talking about aging in our businesses and in our lives because there are so many gifts of age. I think we often look at the wrinkles. I look at the wrinkles and the sagging skin and we all look. Yeah, the media loves to point out every cream and balm and laser and everything else that we need because we don't know how to age gracefully and allow that. But from a wisdom and a being able to see things and think about things, that's why even the word retirement, it's kind of like that whole, where we were told as women, I can bring home the bacon fried up in a pan. Like I can do all these things. Well, I can. I can't do them all at one time. And the age, the wisdom of age has allowed me to stop and say, what is it that I'm trying to attain right now, or do right now, or have or be right now? Because I can't do it all. I don't even want to do it all anymore. I have zero desire to do everything. I just don't. And also, I look at what is the cost, right? So, yes, I can do that, but here's the cost. So, another thing that I listened to this year, and I'm trying to remember where I heard it, but it was talking about hurrying and how we create this stress factor on ourselves by hurrying. Again, this all goes back to margin, not giving ourselves space to think, space to work, space on the calendar, even in our jobs, just lining one thing up, no space to call my parents and having to choose between that and going to the bathroom. Like, right? I don't want to sit in diapers, so I had to make the choice. But you know what I'm saying? Not having enough margin to be able to do those things. And what they were talking about was how hurrying really creates more mental load for us. And so that when I used to always say it wasn't that my kids would irritate me. It was that I was trying to do that. Oh, well, this will only take 3 minutes. Let me squeeze it in. And so I was squeezing things in that then squeezed the timeline for us to get something done and realizing that I don't know what 5, 10, 15 minutes that we need in our brains to shift from one activity to the next. While I'm fast and I'm quick. And my mother, I've said this before, my mother said to me one time, Michelle, you get more done in a day than I get done in a week. My brain goes super fast. But I've also recognized the older I get, the more tired I get. And so if I can start to give myself little mini 10-minute breaks here and there throughout my day and allow myself time to stop and to move and not to jam up my calendar just because it makes somebody else's life easier when it completely depletes me. That has been a big shift this year is I want to say yes, but I need to say yes at the right time for both of us. Not at the right time for you, but at a time that's going to cost me for everything that comes behind that meeting. And just that margin, believe it or not, it's margin. But I think that goes back to retirement. It goes back to life. It goes back to enjoying other things. Is just saying yes to the best yes and not to everything.
And not to everything is right. And also, you're right. I have Susan Woodcock and I did a podcast about taking care of ourselves. And one of the things that I realized in our conversation was I rarely take a break, like you were saying. Like I don't go outside and eat my
I get
lunch.
lost in the work.
Yeah, exactly. Or I realize I have a podcast to record in 5 minutes and I haven't gone to the bathroom, like those kind of things. And just trying to build that into my day a little bit more. And now I know that by a certain time, Bill will probably be home. And I do stop and take a few minutes with him. Instead of looking at it as an interruption to my day, it's a chance to slow down and say, oh, okay, let me catch up with you and find out what happened with your day, and have a cup of coffee and sit down and not be at my desk, because I found that I would grab that cup of coffee and come right back and start all over again. And so there wasn't any room to breathe and think about certain things and stepping away. And I've also, as much as I love technology, and I taught a technology class at the Custom Workroom Conference this year, I'm trying to use it less. I'm trying to
Yes,
turn it
same.
off sooner. I'm trying to leave my phone in another room while I'm trying to do what Cal Newport calls as deep work. We can't multitask. Our
No,
brains are not set up for it. And the older I get, the less single tasking I can get done if I haven't cleared my brain of things.
right.
And the more that's sitting around me when I'm trying to do it, the harder it is for me. So,
I think we've lost the art of thinking.
yes,
Like, and I'm not talking about rumination of past things. I'm talking about the art of thinking deeply. Yeah, I really believe it's a lost art. Every time I hear something new and it's like I was taking time and thinking about this, or I gave it, some time to really ponder and to really um just get into it and parse it out in my brain. And I think we're going so fast, we are relying on technology to do that thinking for us. And that's my fear for AI is that, there are certainly some opportunities to use it and to use it well. But if we are going to allow it to be our therapist and to be our thinkers in everything, we don't know who set and programmed that thing. I was listening to some information on how different AI models were programmed with biases, and that changes our way of thinking. It can change an entire culture, an entire people set. And, when we take away our own ability to sit and to think, I think that's why we get to where we can't even trust ourselves. So now we've got to go to the latest coach or guru or podcast or book or course because we don't even know how to listen and think and trust ourselves anymore. I'd love to bring back just the art of being able to not have to feel so physically busy, but to sit and to think with a plan to, certainly do something with it. Like I'm not going to sit and think all day. I'd fall asleep.
I would too. But you're right. There are times, and I found one of the things that I would do if I had a problem that I needed to work through, I'd find myself with my phone in my hand playing a game of solitaire or scrolling through Instagram, like, and I would tell myself that I was processing and I was thinking, and I realized I was in fact not doing that. And so again, trying to keep my phone out of my office for hours at a time. And I use GoodNotes on my iPad a lot, and sometimes I'll just pull that up blank and just jot things down there as thoughts are occurring to me. And I agree with you. I've used AI for a number of things, but I stop myself from just assigning things to that and not using my
Not
own brain.
thinking about it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Because talk about aging. Gosh, the minute we start outsourcing our thinking, we're in trouble.
Well, we have an ongoing joke here, Bill and I. This has been going on for a long time for me, so I'm not worried that it's age related, but I find it's a little bit worse. And for someone who loves to read and words, this is especially frustrating. There will be a word that I'm trying to think of, and literally I can see the word. And this goes back to my processing, but I can't make it come out of my mouth, and I can't even think the word out loud in my head, but I can see it. And I forget what we were talking about the one day. And he said, do you want me to tell you the word? I'm like, yes, please get me out of my misery here. What's the word? And he's like, yes, yes, that's it. It happens occasionally. I'm really not concerned about it. But when I Google things immediately or I go to AI right away, I go, you know what? I've got to do this a little less often. I need to use my brain as much as possible while I still can.
That's
And
right.
and again, I think we need to be careful. It's any new technology. What
Anything.
would we do without our phones? And yet we need to be careful how young people use their phones and all of that. So I think it's technology is great, but how are we using it and how often are we using it? That's the things we have to be careful about.
All right. So my next question for you, what are you most looking forward to for your business in 2026?
I am looking forward to having my SOPs in place so that I can, and I've been working on that for exactly the reason you said a little while ago. I can't sell this to anybody unless I can tell them how I do it. And so I've really worked on getting that together. And I'd like to be able to finish that up and then turn my flashlight to who is out there who would be good at taking this over? Who would be a good fit for the library? Who can I bring on board to take over for me? So
Hmm.
that I think I want to refine that idea next year. There are a few changes that I'm making to the library that will make the community inside the library even more vibrant and more wonderful. I think our Facebook groups are really terrific, Michelle, but they're not always all professionals. And the wonderful people who monitor those Facebook groups, it's not their full time job.
Yes.
And you and I have both seen answers on there that are either not really as accurate as we would like to see them. I mean, everybody's got
Or
different ways of
not
doing it.
supportive.
We're not
Or
supportive,
just
and
nasty.
that's the kindest way to put that. And I see the community growing inside the library. I also see newer, younger people coming in, and I am so excited about that. So being able to support new people coming into the community is really something that's important to me. And also taking a little more time that's not work related.
Yeah.
I have to make myself do that. And when I do, I'm really happy that I do it. So how about you? What are you looking forward to next year?
Um, I'm looking forward to the new offer of the strategy to go to see if it will be as big of a hit as CFO to go, to really empower business owners to learn how to have a strategy and accountability so that they can, if you will, build and bake it into their own company culture. Because the goal of any good coach or educator is to coach and educate so that people don't need you anymore. I mean, right? I'm not looking. Look, I love my long timers, and really, the reason that some people are with me for a long time isn't because they're slow learners. It's because their business has shifted so much that we're looking at completely different things than what we started with. But the goal is to teach people to independently do some of these things. So I'm really excited about strategy to go, like I am CFO to go. The other thing that I am really excited about is still having more margin. I even feel like I had the right amount of margin this year. I don't feel like I didn't have enough, but I'm excited because I might strategically move it around a little bit differently. Like I would almost like to be able to have two times to go in to help our parents instead of in July. And we always help at Thanksgiving to do some of these really big projects. I'd almost like to have like a spring and a fall that we can just go in with nothing but to serve our parents, like the way the Bible says to honor your parents. I just want to create time to honor my parents and my husband's parents. That's really important to me. And then I certainly want to have time for these grandbabies because I've been able to take all my Fridays off. So that was
Oh,
great.
good.
Yes, I think I know we talked about the fact that I had talked about having Fridays off for a while, but what I didn't do, back to margin again, what I didn't do was realize that that meant everything had to be done by end of day Thursday. And so I would book myself at work through Thursday, and then I had to work Friday to catch up. So now what I do is I book myself through Wednesday. Thursdays are my overflow days so that I can catch up on everything. And I've been able to take almost every Friday as a me day where I either made all my doctor's appointments, I got to play with the grandkids, I got to go do stuff, do other projects, other things, buy a house, whatever I had to do on that Friday. But it gave me margin, and I think that's the whole thing, is trying to find out what balanced means with regards to my time. So I'm excited about tweaking it a little bit in 26. I don't have that fully formed yet, but this year was good to me. Like I felt like when I worked, I was heads down working and I was excited about it. I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to enjoying it again next year. I don't have any other really big plot twist or anything happening. I'm actually looking forward to a few collaborations next year. Just being able to work with a few people, I want to be a cheerleader for other people that are succeeding. And a lot of times I am and I let them know, but I just really want to, I'm doing what I want to do and I want other people to do what they want to do. And I want to be a cheerleader. I think
Well,
that
you always are, Michelle, that's for sure. But there is something
I
to,
work hard at it. I really do. And it's not easy sometimes. But it goes back to that, right? When I think any of us, when we believe that we're doing what we are supposed to be doing in the way that we're supposed to be doing it, and we are actively making the choices that we're making. So we are choosing what happens to us and around us as opposed to feeling like life is happening to us that are victims, then it's easier to celebrate other people because their choices gave them that. And if I want that, I need to go make those choices. And so it's easier to cheer other people when I'm taking ownership of my own decision making.
I agree with that 100%. And I think that's one of the things early on in my podcasting career. My friend Susan Gillen had said to me, "Are you okay on the days that you interview people who are doing like a whole lot more differently than you?" And I loved the check in. But the fact of the matter was that 99% of the time, they would share the struggles that got them to where they were. And I was like, yeah, I didn't want to do that. Like, I'm
Yeah,
happy.
there's a cost to
I'm
everything,
the
right?
best. Yes.
There is a cost to everything. Well, and just a good reminder, and I didn't come up with it. I think I heard it from Rob Lowe years ago. Our kids were going off to college at the same time. And his comment to his son was never measure your insides by somebody else's outsides. Don't compare how you feel internally to what you see externally on somebody else. And in business, it's true. It's so easy. When I'm working with designers or workrooms and they're looking out and they're saying, I look at what these people are doing. And I'm like, yeah, but look at this. Like, again, that's a highlight reel. Don't compare that to the internal struggles that you're having because they've got their own internal struggles. And if you were to have the conversation with them, they would say, yeah, this revenue looks great, but my gosh, look at the amount of people I'm having to manage and the trouble that this comes with it. So there's a give and take on all of it. And I think just being able to see that and to recognize that none of it comes without effort and energy and decisions. And if you don't like your decisions, make different, if you don't like your outcomes, make different decisions is kind of the way it comes down.
And I like the idea of claiming the responsibility for it. Well, I chose not to do that, so that's why that didn't
That's
happen for me.
right.
And
That's
and
exactly.
sometimes that's exactly how I wanted it to work out, and other times like, well, you knew if you didn't do that, that
Yeah, you knew you weren't going to get the pay. Like I always say, well, shoot, I wish I'd have won the lottery, but I had to buy a ticket and I didn't. So they are not going to come knock on my door and give me a ticket and say, wow, you won. This is not publishing what Publishers Clearinghouse. Like it doesn't work that way.
buying the ticket, so here's your winnings.
Yeah, if I get that figured out, I will clue you in, but that is not happening. So again, the people that won, it's because they played, they got in the game. And so, I just want to celebrate other people getting in the game.
So I know this is never a short podcast. Did you have any books this year that you read that you really enjoyed or that made a difference for you?
You know what? The same way that you talked about, and we talked about kind of slowing down and listening, I did read a few. I don't have any that stuck out, but I'll tell you what I did. I went back to a tried and true of E-Myth Revisited. And I spent a lot of time going back through that book again, so much so that I gave it to all of my coachees at our strategic event. And we talked through it again and really, really, really kind of dialing into the CEO mindset, the managerial mindset, and the mindset of the technician. So, really trying to ask ourselves to look at every single thing we do in business and identifying which tasks that we're doing are technician task, what's manager task, what's CEO task. Because as we're trying to be more strategic and we're trying to learn to strategize, we've got to put on different hats to do it, right? Understanding what the technician's trying to get out of it, what the manager's trying to get out of it, and as the CEO and visionary, what you're trying to get out of it. And I just found that it was a good year to kind of go back to some really deep basics that I, read 15, 20 years ago and really just dig back in again and take them for a spin. So that's what I did. And then I listened to a lot of different podcasts, and I've been listening to things that are not business related because I found that I've had some years where I was so siloed in the business podcast and in the business book, business that I couldn't get out of it. And I just didn't want to do that. So I spent a heck of a lot of time this year listening to fun stuff, silly stuff, all kinds of stuff, and just enjoying a little bit of a break. And then going back to like I said, to the tried and truths, and then thinking just some time to, what do I think about that? Where have I seen that? What do I think about that? So that's kind of how I spent my year. What about you? Any good books?
Well, it's interesting because for about 2 years, I really felt like I couldn't absorb any business books. And I was getting a little bit frustrated. Like, is my comprehension going away? Like, what is the deal? And I think I just didn't have the headspace to take in any more opinions or ideas for how I should be running my business.
Exactly.
And this year, and I actually, you and I have talked about this, there are a lot of books I read on Kindle. I tried a couple of audiobooks. I'm listening to Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Yes, I have it. It was funny because I was going to tell you, I have one that was like, do less, buy back your time, all the ones on how to get time, how to create that margin.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I find it very interesting. It basically because he's not saying don't just start hiring people. Look at what your time is worth and all of that. So I'm not quite done with that one. I love The Secrets of Adulthood by Gretchen Rubin because they're
You've
aphorisms.
always loved her stuff.
I do love her. And like it's not a book like I just pick it up every so often. I'll read a couple pages and I'm done. It's not it's I don't but
Not heavy,
it's
but
and
it's
it's
deep.
not a novel exactly. I read The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins.
I have that, read that too.
I really liked it because it has been something I've been working on for a long time. And growing up the way I did and being the oldest daughter and being a people pleaser, there were so many times where I realized I let other people's opinion decide for me. And so it's a simple theory. Did a whole book need to be written about it? I don't know, but I probably needed to hear it all spelled out. And more importantly, it's not just let them, but let me. Because when I let other people be who they are and make the decisions that they want to make, then I get to do the things that I want to do.
That's
And
right.
and there are things as our children grow and become true adults that maybe aren't the choices we would make, but we taught them everything that we could, and now they're their choices to make. And I could look at the things that my kids decided to do and go, okay, I hope that works out for you. If that's your choice, so be it. And not be all wrapped up in the outcome because it's not my outcome.
Isn't it funny how when we get to the point in life, and for some of us maybe it's earlier rather than later, but that we realize there are so many ways to navigate this world. Like
Yes.
I saw something the other day where somebody was like, why do I have to live my life? And I'm not talking about big spiritual ideas. I'm talking about why do I have to get a 9 to 5 job versus being an entrepreneur? Why do I have to be an entrepreneur versus a 9 to 5 job? Why do my kids have to go to this type of school versus this type of school? Like, who's telling us that it's got to be this way? Why does my desire have to be 2.5 kids in a white picket fence? What if it's 4 kids and a black rail fence? Like, what if it's different? And
If it's no kids
what if
and an
it's
open
no kids?
prairie, yeah.
Right. So it's just that idea of there's so many different ways to move physically through the world. So many different decisions. And when you can, again, look at somebody else and go, you know what? They're making, It might not be the decision I would make. I might even think it's a stupid decision in the moment, but it's their decision. And instead of going, well, that was stupid and now you're going to find out, instead having an attitude of, well, I sure hope that works for you. Like a more positive, like,
Yes, yes.
go for it. Good luck on that one.
Yeah,
That one might be a lesson.
and why am I am assuming it's not gonna work out when it's not for me in the first place?
And then being shocked that it does. So, I think just and it's funny. It's kind of goes back to when you were little and you had dinner at your own house and then you eat dinner with a friend and you realize they do dinner differently and you're like, "Oh, wait. That's a dinner food at your house? That's a breakfast food at my house. What do you mean you do that differently? What do you mean?" And I think the more that we start to understand that we allow people to be individual and unique. I saw a post on, I don't even remember who put it, somebody put it on Instagram the other day. And the comment was, we're taking the color out of the world. And it was back in the 70s. Remember what everything is like avocado green and yellow. And they showed like all these cars coming out in the 60s and 70s. And it's red and green and blue and like all these colors. And now everything is black and gray and navy and white. And then they showed the houses and and now everything's white, at least down here in the South. It's like our color is being stripped out and we're making everything so uniform and being able to put color. I've seen that a lot with the designers this year, a lot of putting color and individuality and not just having like an idea or a theme run through every home, like from a mass market, mass produced kind of thing. And it's so funny because when we start mass producing things that we come into our home, we start mass producing the way that we're supposed to move through the world.
That's a good point,
And
Michelle.
I'm done with the mass production.
And this book I just started. It's The
But
Next
it's,
Conversation with Jefferson Fisher. I
I've
listen to
heard
his
of that.
podcast. I
He's
it's
good. He's,
argue less, talk more.
yes,
I
he's good.
love him. Yes. And one of the things, this is so funny. You and I have talked about this, especially with adult children. Sometimes my kids will start to dump something on me, and I will say to them, do you want me to listen or do you want me to help? And sometimes they just want me to listen. And so I zip it and I allow them to keep talking. And I'm happy to be that sounding board for them. And the other day, my younger daughter texted me something, and I had Michelle, the paragraph of my response was this long. And I went, she might have already thought of that. Ceil, backspace, backspace, backspace. And I said, and how did you handle that? And exactly what I had written out was everything that she did. And I thought if I had just sent that without asking the question, it would have come across that I didn't believe enough in her to have handled
Yeah.
it well.
My son said to me one time, he said, Mom, he said, you don't have to tell me what you think in most cases. He said, I already know what you think. I hear it in my head. And I was like, well, for 18 years, I pretty much told you what I thought about something to try to teach you how to think. And so it's the same kind of thing, learning to ask. I'll have to look that book up. I really like his podcast and I like the way he approaches things.
I do too, because it's not about winning an argument. It's about having deep conversation.
Right. Communication.
Yeah. And he talks about just taking a breath. Did I hear this correctly? Let's come back to this when we're both a little less worked up about it so that we can come up with a good solution that fits for both of us. Like things, even slowing down the speed of your speech because it allows your brain to process. It indicates to the person you're
Regulates your nervous system.
exactly, exactly. And so I enjoy him personally. I really do love his podcast. And we've talked about this before. I don't listen to that many podcasts anymore. I don't have the time to do it. I walk almost every day, and there are a couple of podcasts I make sure I listen to, but sometimes I just have quiet when I'm talking because it's the only time all day I have it. But his, I make sure I never miss. I really, really enjoy it. So,
That's
so
awesome.
that's four books that I've read this year. So, and that's probably four more books than I read last year. I still read lots of novels and read for entertainment, but I haven't really read anything deep in the last couple years. So
Yeah, and it's funny, I have Buy Back Your Time, and I don't think I've gotten all the way through it. I did read Let Them. I got that one and read that one. And yeah, I mean, I could show you my all of my books over there, but I just was in a I didn't want to look for other people's opinions.
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah.
want them.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's good to go through seasons like that. I've gone through seasons where I read 40 and 50 books in a year, and then I've gone through seasons where I read none.
Yeah, and I
And
think that is okay. Like,
uh,
what do I need this year?
I'm still happy, so I guess it's working for me. Well, Sil,
Michelle,
I loved
so
this.
good.
I know. I look forward to it every year. I know we both say that, but thank you for just asking the questions and sharing your heart and your life and your business with me and then with the listeners. I think that's a special treat that we don't all do so often is to sit and just kind of parse out life.
And I do hear from my listeners every year how much they enjoy this episode. So thank you for taking the time to catch up with me. I just really enjoy it.
Sounds great. Well, cheers to 2026.
Right back at you. Thanks, Michelle.
Ceil, as always, what a pleasure to sit and to hang out with you for a little bit and to laugh and talk about just the changes. It could almost be fun to go back and just, I guess we'd have to take about a full day because we've done 8 of these now that are anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour or so. But gosh, what fun and to just listen to our businesses and how they've shifted and changed from 2018 to 2025. It's kind of a nice little library in and of itself. But thank you for taking the time to just hold space for us to think about our businesses. I do hope that those of you who are listening have thought about that too. I do want to offer that if you want to work with me, please go to scarletthreadconsulting.com. Check out the CFO to Go and the Strategy to Go programs. We talked about those being new. So you should start to see those in late 2025 and totally in 26. And then also you can check out Matrique Solutions where you can learn to pretty much do your financials like a CFO and check out our other opportunities to work together. I would love to support you in creating a strategy that helps you decide where your business is going and then align your financials to do that. So remember, you have to choose to be profitable because profit doesn't happen by accident. Profit is a Choice is proud to be part of the designnetwork.org, where you can discover more design media reaching creative listeners. Thanks for listening and stay creative and business minded.